1942. Holland Holland's workshop, London. This is where craftsmen build bespoke rifles for royalty and maharajahs. A single shotgun here costs more than a soldier earns in a decade. Today, they're fitting telescopic sights onto army rifles. Every finished weapon must place 7 shots inside a 5-inch circle at 200 yards. If it can't, it goes back. 681 already have. The ones that pass will become the most feared sniper rifle of World War II. Britain had no right building it. In 1939, Britain barely had a sniper program, and that wasn't bad luck, it was a choice. After World War I, Major Hesketh Pritchard had built the Army's first formal sniping school in France. His methods saved over 3,500 Allied lives. When the war ended, the Army dismantled everything. Telescopic sights sold back to dealers, sniper rifles scrapped. Senior officers called it a trench warfare novelty, unlikely to happen again. Germany corrected that arrogance immediately. In France and Norway in 1940, organized German sniper fire pinned down British units with no real answer. After Dunkirk, the situation was desperate. The few remaining World War I sniper rifles had fogged optics and warped stocks. A stopgap order of 421 conversions bought time, nothing more. In Sicily, 1943, a handful of German paratroop snipers held up an entire battalion of the 51st Highland Division at 600 yards. In North Africa, one British sniper officer lined up 3 marksmen to fire simultaneously at a single target, hoping at least one round would connect. That was the gap. Britain needed to close it fast. The solution came from an unlikely partnership, a government arsenal and London's most exclusive gunmaker. The No. 4 Mark I was chosen as the base. Its flat receiver was ideal for mounting a scope bracket. Its heavy barrel was more accurate than the older Lee-Enfield, and it was already in mass production. The Royal Small Arms Factory at Enfield made the first 1,403 conversions, but the real program began in September 1942, when the contract went to Holland Holland. Their process was meticulous. First, BSA's factory in Birmingham test-fired standard No. 4s. The best performers were stamped TR, telescopic rifle, and sent to London. Holland Holland stripped each one completely. They precision-machined scope mounting pads, screwed and soldered them to the receiver. They bedded the action into the stock for consistent contact. They tuned the trigger, approximately 4 pounds of take-up, then a crisp 2-pound break. Each rifle got a wooden cheek piece for proper scope alignment. Every scope and bracket were individually serial numbered and matched to a specific rifle. That scope was called the No. 32. Originally designed for the Bren light machine gun, it was a purpose-built military optic from the ground up, not a civilian scope hastily adapted for combat. It was made to survive recoil, mud, rain, and sustained frontline use. It offered 3.5 times magnification with a bullet drop compensator calibrated in 50-yard increments out to 1,000 yards. Later marks added 1 minute of angle windage clicks and slip rings for field zeroing. The critical feature, a sniper could remove the scope, remount it, and hold 0. No competitor offered that. The finished rifle fired a 174-grain .303 bullet at 2,441 feet per second from a 25-inch barrel. It fed from a 10-round magazine, double every competitor's capacity. Total weight with scope, 11 pounds, 10 ounces. The bolt action locked at the rear, 60-degree throw, cock on closing. The fastest, smoothest cycling of any bolt action in the war. A sniper could work the bolt without shifting his sight picture or giving away his position. Between November 1942 and April 1946, Holland Holland completed 21,617 conversions. Canada's Long Branch arsenal added another 1,588. By 1944, British sniping had gone from a national embarrassment to a decisive advantage.
Sergeant Harry Furness of the 6th Green Howards landed on Gold Beach on June 6th and didn't stop fighting until Berlin. He accumulated 117 confirmed kills. In France, he dropped what appeared to be a senior German officer at 600 yards from an elevated position. The Germans responded with mortar and 88mm fire, blowing him from his slit trench twice. He went back to his position both times.
Marine Derek Cakebread, a hairdresser before the war, crawled within 100 yards of enemy positions in broad daylight. He accounted for over 30 Germans in Normandy alone. In the Orne Bridgehead, brigade sniper sections pulled marksmen from multiple commando units into a coordinated counter-sniping force that systematically dismantled German positions. The numbers are striking. British snipers averaged 1.3 to 1.5 rounds per confirmed kill. Conventional infantry combat consumed roughly 25,000 rounds per casualty. In Burma, 48 snipers from just 2 brigades killed 296 Japanese in 2 weeks, losing 2 killed and 1 wounded. Against its competitors, the No. 4T held clear advantages on every front. The German Karabiner 98K was a fine rifle, but its Mauser bolt required 4 distinct movements and a full 90-degree lift, noisier, slower, more likely to disturb the sight picture. Many German snipers were also issued the ZF-41, a 1.5 power scope their own sniper schools called inadequate. Germany also fielded a bewildering array of scope variants from different manufacturers, many without windage adjustment at all. The American M1903A4 Springfield used a commercial Weaver scope, 2.75 power, not waterproof, prone to fogging, with mounting screws that reportedly loosened in the field. It blocked all iron sights, leaving the sniper with nothing if the optic failed. The Garand-based M1C and M1D offered semi-automatic fire, but their offset scopes ran just 2.2 to 2.5 power, and their unselected barrels produced groups 3 times larger than the No. 4T at 200 yards. Britain had combined rigorous accuracy selection, world-class gunsmithing, a robust, purpose-built optic, and coherent training doctrine into a single unified system. Germany had deadly snipers but chaotic equipment. America had good ballistics but fragile commercial optics and no formal accuracy standard. Only Britain put every element together. The rifle outlasted almost everything around it.
It served through Korea as the standard Commonwealth sniper rifle, through Malaya and Aden into the late 1960s, long after the semi-automatic L1A1 replaced the standard No. 4 in 1957. The semi-auto simply couldn't match it at range. In 1970, approximately 1,080 rifles were rebuilt into the L42A1, rechambered to 7.62mm NATO with a new 27.5-inch hammer-forged barrel. The L42A1 fought with the SAS in Dhofar, served extensively in Northern Ireland, and was carried by Royal Marines and Paratroop Regiment snipers at Goose Green and Mount Longdon in the Falklands. It was declared obsolete in April 1992, replaced by the Accuracy International L96A1. From the Lee Metford adopted in 1888 to the L42A1's retirement, the sniper platform alone served 51 years. Collectors still hunt for matched sets today. Over 90% of surviving examples in North America are mismatched. Surplus dealers separated the individually numbered scopes from their rifles decades ago. A genuine matched set with original scope, bracket, and transit chest commands $10,000 to $15,000 or more. Modern shooters report something unusual. The rifle produces around 3 minutes of angle at 100 meters, tightening to roughly 1.5 minutes at 600 as the heavy bullet stabilizes downrange. 8 decades later, it still outperforms many modern rifles at distance. That's what happens when you do everything right.